So you've written down your yearly goals and now you're wondering how to make these goals a reality. This video is for you. So last video, if you missed it, check out the link below. We worked on my system of how to come up with your 4 to 6 New Year goals of the big picture. And once you came up with that, you are left with 4 to 6 goals of the year, and this might be overwhelming. And what do you do from here? How do you turn this into an actionable plan? This is what I'm gonna talk about this part here in this video. I want to break this down into a quarterly plan and a monthly plan, a weekly plan, and then with a weekly plan, you can have your daily tasks done. The best thing about this approach for me is that once I have this plan kickstarted, I know that whatever I'm doing this week is not just a guess that this is something that would bring me to my yearly goals or my life goals or anything. It's really an intentional plan that was reverse engineered so that my day-to-day tasks are geared towards this progression in a roadmap that I have created for myself. So before I go into that, we were working last time on the yearly goals, but I also wanted to say that a lot of times there are recommendations to also consider your bigger picture, your 3, 5, or 10-year plans. And I think this is also a great idea that I might do here another video. But also remember, when you are doing this 3, 5, and 10-year goals plan, that there are, as far ahead as you're planning, there might be more and more unknowns and things that changes, and you don't want to get stuck on your idea of what you're gonna be in 3, 5, or 10 years. So something that I had really loved about this book, Designing Your Life, by Bill Burnett and Dave Evans, is that they talk about your different scenarios of life. And a lot of times we think about our plan for our life as that one plan. Our plan was to go study some kind of a degree and then work your way up the corporate ladder and then find your partner and have kids or whatever. And a lot of times we find out that life has not been going according to the plan. The thing that you thought you wanted to do, you're actually really not liking it, or some medical things came up and it's really not allowing you to continue in what you wanted to do. And we are thinking back on ourselves as we are a failure because the life that we had planned is not going to pan out, and it's really hard for us to imagine us doing something completely different. So this is why I love how this part of the book, Designing Your Life, and I think this is the best exercise that they have here. It's called Odyssey Planning. Okay, yes, Odyssey Planning. And the way that they go about it is figuring out that you might be a totally different person in different scenarios if you got to go to this school or meet these other people, and you have this idea of what you want to do, but you can also at the same time have multiple ideas of what your personality and future and your future self might be needing to might be happy doing, right? It's not just our one passion. It's hard for some people to imagine a whole different life. So what they have here is a way to think about your 3 to 5 different alternative plans. So the first one is just, what's your plan right now for your life? What's your current projection in what you're doing, right? It can be your job, how you see yourself in 3, 5 years, and so on. And then your alternative plan is what you would do if this first plan is no longer available and it's not possible for you to continue. Like if you would lose your job, but what happens if, let's say, you are an engineer, and in the world that you imagine, engineers are no longer required because they're taken over by AI and robots. What would you do if there is no more engineering in the world? And then you write down your other story of your alternative life. So they write here examples, and this is a really fun exercise, and I'm gonna do a whole video about that. But what I was gonna say is that if you can come up with 3 different alternative lives, each of them would have different 3, 5, 10 years plan, and that's a great kind of starting point for planning your longer term self. And I really recommend doing that, and I will do a separate video for that. But now let's go back to what happens if, next thing after you have your goals all set up, and how do you go about making them your daily, monthly, and quarterly tasks. So what I did next, after I have all these goals written down, is take another kind of page that's loose. So I went back to all of my lists of different categories of to-do lists, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, just go back and watch my previous video on it. So I have different tasks here in different categories. They're household, medical, taxes, travel, weekend, and work, different work projects. So I bunch it all up to 4 big categories, and these would be my financial stuff, my medical and personal stuff, my Amazon and legacy projects, and these are my work, part of my work stuff that are on in my past, and then my current project, which is my Hello New Me project. So these are the 4 categories, and then I came up looking at the big lists of tasks. I wrote down my big tasks out of it. So I didn't put here any of the small things. I looked at it in a more kind of a general way, and I put, like, for example, taxes, US taxes here, pension stuff, and all of these like separate big tasks for my financials. And then I went to my second one, which is the medical and personal, and figured out what are my big tasks for my medical and personal, making sure that I don't miss any one of my big goals here and the big task that requires me to get to these big goals. And then I did the same for the 2 work categories. And then I had like my big task, my big list, all the big tasks that I have to get done this year to reach my goals for 2025. The next thing I did was take different colored pens for each of the quarters. So I have the orange one is my Q1, my gray one is Q2, the weird brown color is Q4, and the pink is Q4. And then I go back to my list and mark each one of them, which quarter I think would be optimal to focus on it. And some of these I looked at and I know, for example, that I have to finish my taxes on the first quarter, because by April you have to have it already finished. So other things might take more than 1 quarter. So for example, getting to my training routine, it's kind of like an effort in all of the quarters, and so on. So I'm going over it, but I'm trying to kind of put my focus quarter on each one. So it has to be, it all is kind of building on top of each other. So it's basically putting it in a chronological order, but not necessarily in what do I need to do, like in the calendar wise. So just like, what do I have to do until end of March? What do I have to do until the middle of the year, and so on. So once I am done doing that, it looks like that, color coded and all. And then I start a blank page for my first quarter. And this is something that you can do every quarter again. And you can start now and break down every quarter from the get-go, but I don't recommend doing that because there's actually no need for sitting down in January and thinking about your April plans. But I do think that it's good to sit down in January and plan out your next 3 months. So I'm gonna leave the rest of the quarters to the beginning week, the first week of each of these quarters. I start with writing my Q1 goals. It's super simple, but I'm just taking every single goal that I already marked as a Q1 task in all of these aspects and put it here in the list. So now I have just a list of all my Q1 tasks that I have to get done in order to get my yearly goals. So now that I have that, I want to break it down to 3 months. So I write down January, February, and March to be able to write down which one goes where. Some of these tasks definitely would take more than a month. It's not like it's taking more than a month, but I might do a little bit of that in January and some in February. For example, getting into a training routine is not something you do like a specific time. So what I had in mind here is be able to, in January, do at least 4 training sessions. February, it's going to be 8, and then March, it's going to be 12. And it's just the minimal amount. I don't want to overwhelm myself. So I start small and I grow little by little after every month. And of course, if I get to do more than 4 training sessions in January, that's great. But I just want to put the minimum effort that I need to put here in order to fulfill this goal. So if I go by this plan, by the end of March, I would be in a place that I have 3 training sessions a week, which is great. Okay, so I start with that. I go through each one of them and just place it in the correct month or break it down to multiple months. And then I end up with this list of everything that I have to do in January, everything I have to get done in February and March. And then I want to evaluate if that makes sense, because it's nice to kind of do that with your head like very plainly, but I want you to look kind of a wide lens on it and figure out if it makes sense to do all that in a month. So I'm looking at it and it's like, is it possible for me to do a little online course, do this task, do a monthly dinner, do this medical thing, make sure I do a content plan for my business, go through 4 training sessions, start this. So do all that in a month. Does it make sense? And hopefully, yes. But if not, you want to go back and see, because we might have been too optimistic about what we can do in 1 quarter. So one thing you can do is maybe you can take some things from January and push it back to February or March. But if this just looks too overwhelming for each of these months, maybe go back here and see if you can change your quarter and do less in quarter 1 and more in quarter 2. And for me, for example, quarter 3 is really difficult because it's the summer months and I have my daughters out of school, and usually I get the most stressed in this month. So this is why I had like the least amount of tasks to get done on this quarter. But my Q4 looks kind of free, so I might go back to this list and say, you know what, I'm pushing everything a little back. So something from Q3 is going to go to Q4 so that I can free up my Q1 a little bit, so that my month look like achievable. And not only achievable, we have to keep in mind that whenever we do a to-do list, we're not going to do the whole thing. Usually, if I do 80% of my list for the day, the week, the month, that's a good thing. 80% is really good. So I'm looking at it and it's gonna not all be completed according to the plan, because you should always plan plan and then plan for the plan not going according to plan. And this is why I know that 70 to 80% of these are going to be done, but 20 to 30% are always going to be pushed back. So when I'm planning, I want to plan my Q4 as the least as possible. Like I want to keep it free because I know that about 30% are going to be pushed to it because I'm not going to get there. So looking back at the list, I have my January plan. And then I create every beginning of the week or every end of the weekend, I start a weekly plan. So this is how it looks like. I start a blank page, and my blank page is my week plan. And I just write down all of the days of the week. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then I keep my weekend list here on the side. So on the side I have my, it doesn't matter when, and my weekend. And then I write down my tasks for the week. So I always start with whatever is rigid. So if I have appointments or meetings or anything, I write it down in a rigid way. So this is how it looks like. I have a PT appointment here. I have to get a vaccine here for my daughter, flu vaccine. It's about time. And Wednesday I have a call. And then on Thursday I have a party that I signed up for, and that's it. This is my rigid stuff. And then on the doesn't matter list is actually just like a bucket list of things that eventually I'll pull into the different days. So I'm just starting there, writing everything that is important. So I have to schedule an ultrasound. I have to apply for a form. I have to check out bike, and I have to get a refund for something. And then I look at my list of my monthly stuff and see what has to get done and what can I do this week. There's stuff that you have to do weekly, right? So for me, this is groceries that I always do on Tuesday, groceries. And I also, over the weekend, I also do my laundry and my tidying up. Tidy up. And then I also do my clearing of my email every Monday, clear email. And then I have the rest of the things that you have to do weekly. I don't even put it on my monthly goal because every week I have to do these certain things. So now I'm starting to put things here that will advance me towards finishing up these things. So we are on the second week of January now, and until end of January, I have to have my first monthly dinner. So it means that on Monday, I want to start planning, finding a date for that first dinner party. I wanted to email a doctor that I watched her lecture, and I wanted to ask her something that might help me get to this decision. So I'm gonna put it not on Wednesday because I already have a call, so maybe it's too much. So I'm gonna put it Tuesday, email Karen. Okay, and then I'm continuing that way until I have everything booked, and whatever, it doesn't matter which day I do, like I need to get something from the vet. It doesn't matter which day I do it. I have to get to the pharmacy. I can see in the end, after I finish planning, when it's gonna make sense for me to go to do all these errands, to run all these errands. So I go through all this and like I'm gonna clear my email and then I make sure that I put most of my effort towards the first 3 days of the week, because I know that towards Thursday, I am kind of out of energy and I get to do less and less stuff, and I don't want to feel guilty about it. So, as long as my 3 first days of the week were very proliferous, then it's fine having Thursday and Friday more of the maybe getting some learning done, maybe getting things that are more social done, right? So I think my course that I'm gonna do, online course, is gonna be maybe Friday, and this is how I work out my week until I have all of my weekly tasks taken into consideration, that probably 20% of those are gonna have to go back to the next week as well. So this way, every day of the week, I look at my tasks for the day, and I know that some things are rigid. I have to go to PT this day. And also there are things that are weekly that really want, like my first priority thing of the day is being able to clear my email, because I have to do it in the beginning of the week. And then the rest of the things I would do maybe after lunch, or after, like, in between time, because we don't have like a lot of bursts of energy of the day. It's the morning session, I have the most energy. After lunch, I have a smaller session with like something that I don't need a lot of energy for. And then in the afternoon, I'm with my daughter, so I can't really plan on anything that doesn't involve her, but sometimes I get like an hour or two while she watches TV, and I can do something extra. So I put that as like my third priority, because I might not be able to get there. So I do all that. And this is how I know that if I'm going according to this plan and I make 70 to 80% of these tasks a week, then I'm on my way to fulfilling my yearly goals, because this is the roadmap that I created. And also, this is not too overwhelming, because I only have my 3, 4, maybe 5 things, small things that I have to do during the day. And I know that I'm not forgetting about my priorities in my social life, in things that are important in my health, in the household, for my daughter. I'm taking care of all of that, and my business is also progressing. And it's okay, it's really fine, and it happens a lot to me that a whole day I was planning to do some things and I ended up doing something else completely. And this happens to me, and I am actually happy when I have motivation to do something that is hard to get motivation for, and I'm on a roll. I don't stop myself because I have something else planned for this day, because I know that getting this motivation is precious. So I go with the flow. I do the thing that I found this urge to do, motivation to do. I finish that as much as I need to, and then I work around it to change my plan for the week accordingly. And this list starts that way, very tightly, but it goes like every day. It kind of, I move things around, and sometimes it looks like, I wanted to get to the pharmacy today, but I ended up feeling like I can't even leave the house. So I push it back to Wednesday or whatever, like that. So there's a lot of squiggly lines and arrows and things that I am circling, like this is something I forgot to do, or I don't feel like doing, or stuff like that. So this way I can wake up and just look at my list and start the day without feeling overwhelmed and feeling like I'm going towards a goal. And it kind of makes my anxiety calm down a little bit, because I don't have this thoughts in my head like, am I doing the right thing? Should I be doing something else? And this is, if you are like me, have suffering with anxiety, I keep having those voices telling me that something's not right, I should be doing something else, I should be somewhere else doing something else. And this just helps me feel like I am doing exactly what I should be doing, and everything is fine, and I am safe and secure, and that's it. So next thing I want to talk about is about how we're going to change plans, because having a plan is great, but we also have to plan for the plan not going according to plan. And this requires a lot of flexibility. And if you are super rigid about being needing to do all that, you will feel really bad about changing things up, and it might prevent you from getting to your goals. And life is keeps changing, things happen, and we have to build in our flexibility so that we can succeed in reaching somewhere that we plan to. So I hope that was helpful, and I will come up with a digital version of this. And I really like using paper because even though I try to create all the Notion templates for my weekly plan and all that, I find myself just using pen and pencil and a paper works better for me. So for some people, putting it all on their laptop is better, and that's fine too. And I'm gonna create a template for all of that so that you can download and print up, and then you don't have to come up with all that yourself. And also maybe easy to fill template for Notion, which is always great. And once this is done, I will post it here for a download. And let me know if any other tool is needed for this to be done by someone else, because sometimes when you invent like this system for yourself, someone else might look at things completely different, and it's not going to be helpful without something that you missed. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. Comment below for any questions, and make sure you subscribe and follow for more ways of how you can turn around your life and start a new chapter, and do it in an intentional way and create your dream life basically.